Hello, good evening, good afternoon if you're watching this in the replay, and good morning if you're watching this in the replay. Welcome to today's Fro Friday talk. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about breakage versus stunted growth versus excessive shedding. Now, most of the time, you know what, I'm just going to take this off because I don't like what it looks like. So I'm going to take it off. Okay. My hair's looking a bit crazy today. You're gonna have to forgive me because, again, I am the set it and forget it type. I don't like to do anything to my hair once I've done it already. I'm leaving it the way it is. Okay, it's a bit bright in here too, so let's dim that. There we go. Now it's not so bright and garish. Okay, so I'm focusing now. All right, so we're going to be talking about stunted growth, what stunted growth actually is, because a lot of people say this thing, oh, my hair won't grow, or it won't grow past my shoulders, or blah 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 blah. Okay, that could be stunted growth, but it could also be shedding. It could be caused by shedding. It could also be caused by breakage. In fact, breakage is usually the first thing I check for when we're talking about, oh, my hair won't grow past a certain length. There is, of course, there is a genetic factor in terms of hair not growing past a certain length. There is a fact. That is a factor, genes, but that is usually down to. So let's talk about like maximum hair length, right? Your potential for hair growth depends on your growth rate and the length of your hair cycle. So our hair has a cycle. I'll do a whole thing on this. Maybe next Wednesday, actually. I have something else planned for next Wednesday, but I could skip that and just tell you guys how hair works. Or I'll just mention it at the beginning. Or you know what, even better still, because I do content listen guys, when I say I do content everywhere, there's a little thing trailing the bottom of the screen right here. Just follow me on all the social medias because I'm everywhere talking about hair all the time. All the time. All the time. So if you missed anything anywhere, if there's something that's not on YouTube, it's probably on Instagram. If it's not on Instagram, it's probably in my Lazy Naturals hair group, which, by the way, you should absolutely join. Okay? Yes, join the group. You just need to search for Lazy Naturals Hair Group, or you can just type in fb.com/groups/Lazy Naturals, period. Lazy Naturals, okay? That's where I put all my good stuff, including discount codes, etc. Excuse me, I should have brought some water with me. Not very forward thinking, apparently. Anyway, so moving on. So let's get started, right? So my hair won't grow. If you're one of these people who is experiencing stagnancy in your hair growth journey, you think you've been doing everything right to try and make sure that your hair grows. You know, you're washing your hair regularly, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing all the things that the internet says you should do, and yet somehow your hair is not growing. Then that means we need to have a more careful look at what is causing the lack of length retention, because usually it's actually more length retention that is the issue than it is actual growth. Your hair is almost always constantly growing, unless you have medical issues, which I will mention in this video because we're talking about actual stunted growth in this video. Unless you have medical issues, your hair should always be growing. So what might be happening, or what's most likely when people say this is actually happening, is that their hair is breaking. So let's get into it. My hair won't grow, but is it breakage though, sis? Now, my hair won't grow, but is it breakage? So what is breakage? Breakage is when your hair basically snaps along the hair shaft, anywhere along the hair shaft, causing it to basically break and no longer be the length it was. So I ain't got nothing over here that I can use to demonstrate, unfortunately. Let's just take my pen, for example. Imagine this is your hair shaft. You do something to it it doesn't like, and snap, it snaps, okay? When I break this pen, which I'm not going to do, if I was to break this pen, you would see it would splinter into pieces, several pieces, which means you're going to be left with jagged ends. And if you have jagged ends on the end of your hair, that's going to lead to further damage to your hair, that particular hair strand, and other hair strands as well. So that is what breakage is. When your hair snaps, for whatever reason it has snapped, it's just snapped. And it's obviously left some jagged ends, which will cause further breakage or further damage. Oh, what have I done? Okay, so what's breakage? How can we tell that our hair is broken rather than it just fell out, or rather than, do you know what I mean? Rather than it's not growing. How you can tell is by looking at the ends of the hair that comes out on your comb or your brush, or when you run your hand through your hair when you're washing or whatever. Look at the hair strand and look at the ends. If you're let's say, for example, I'm not expecting everybody to go buy a magnifying glass and look really carefully, but if you're able to see that there are tiny little, just thin ends. Oh, I really wish I had a whiteboard with me. I usually have a whiteboard with me to show you what I'm talking about. Didn't bring it today, so we're just gonna have to live with it that way. If you can see that there are finer ends and split ends and all sorts of things going on there, there's a likelihood that there is breakage. If, however, what you see is a little white thing on the end of it, that is shedding. And we'll move on to that in a second. So if there's no little white thing on the end of either end of your hair strand, then it wasn't shed hair, it was broken. Another sign is when you're brushing or combing your hair and you hear snap, 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 snap. You're probably, sometimes it's static, but sometimes you're actually snapping your own hair strands. A lot of people, I remember when I was much younger. So I spent a period of time in boarding school in Nigeria, and there's this thing about hard, or what we call strong hair, and it's treated with such aggression. I've seen people run their combs through strong hair. Strong hair is really just dry hair. It needs extra care, but instead the opposite is being done to it. It's usually, and it doesn't tend to grow. It doesn't grow because of how it's attacked. So strong hair is usually combed cha, 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 and I'm making that sound because it's a loud, complex sound that comes from several hair strands breaking at a time. It used to make my eye twitch at the time. I didn't really know why, but now I do, and it's anyway, that's why the hair is not growing. So you cannot be aggressive with hair that you think is strong or hard or tough. You need to give it the care it needs, which is add a high slip leave-in conditioner or high slip oil, then detangle it. Don't just run a comb through it like that. If you're hearing snap, 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 snap noises, it is more likely than not that you are breaking off your hair rather than it's not growing because XYZ. The other reason your hair might be breaking is if you live in a cold country like I do, where we wear scarves and we wear hats and all those types of things, sometimes those things can rub against the hair strands and cause breakage, because anything that rubs against your hair is removing. In my previous video, I talked about cuticle scales and how we can suffer damage where the cuticle scales are concerned. Just give me a second. Sometimes we can cause damage to our hair by what we wear. So as you've noticed, my hair is up in here. So I'll show you my actual hair. But I like to wear my hair tucked in as often as is possible. Oh, struggling to dig it out now. Anyway, my hair is in there somewhere. Okay, there it is. There we go. I like to keep my ends away from my clothing. I like to keep them away from anything that might harm them. So I don't let them rub against scarves. I don't let them rub against hats. This is made out of silk satin, very high quality silk satin. If you'd like to get your hands on one, the link is in the description box below. I like to just protect my hair as much as I can. If you grow your hair to shoulder length, for example, and then you leave it out, what's going to happen is if you leave your hair out like that, and this thing I'm wearing is cotton. Most of us wear cotton because it's nice and warm and it's also breathable at the same time. However, if I leave my hair down here like this, straight, maybe stretched in a stretched style, it looks nice, sure, but when I turn my head, my hair rubs here. When I turn my head, my hair rubs here. At the back, it's also rubbing. It's going to be rubbing until it starts to break. And it'll just happen little by little. So you may not even see those hair strands that have broken off, or those bits of the hair strands that have broken off. You just might notice that you have split ends. You might notice it's going to be more split ends. You might notice that your ends are a lot drier because the cotton is draining all the moisture from the hair because you're constantly rubbing against it. It's like when you're trying to, I'm talking really fast. Let me slow down. It's like when you're trying to dry your hair with a towel. You shouldn't rub, because that can also cause damage to your cuticle scales, which are the scales on the outside of your hair strand. But also, that is drawing away the moisture from the hair, which makes it more susceptible to damage. So that's breakage. I think I've talked about how to stop it. I've talked about leave-in conditioners. I have a video on that, so I'm not going to talk about that in this one because I want to make sure that we get down to the nitty-gritty, which is actual stunted growth. Making sure your hair is kept moisturized, and you seal in that moisture. And of course, this one I didn't mention, use of heat. Use of heat does two things. It weakens the structure of your hair because you are quickly causing the water inside the hair to evaporate out of the hair. And when it does that, it can leave cracks in the hair strand. It's also heating the protein that your hair is made of, and too much heat can actually denature that protein. So proteins stretch or bend or change their shape slightly when they are heated. Their elasticity keeps them going back to the shape that they were in before if the heat is not too much. If they're exposed to too much heat, that's where we get something called heat damage. Heat damage can happen and it may be irreversible. I say it may be irreversible because some people have made claims of being able to reverse it using protein treatments. I have not yet experimented with that. I will do that later on and we will see for ourselves. But yeah, it can cause permanent damage and you'll end up having to snip off those ends because you won't be happy with it. So heat, very, very gentle. I actually have not used heat on my hair in over a year. I don't use heat generally. I dry my hair in a different way. I'll talk about that in another video too. Okay, so let's move on to point number 2, shedding. Is it shedding that I'm struggling with? My hair won't grow. It's not breakage, but is it excessive shedding? Now, here's how you can tell if it's shedding. First of all, what is shedding? Shedding is when your hair strands come out from the follicle, from the root. They're just falling out or popping out, as the case may be. Several things can cause this. Natural hair cycle, your hair strands just come out. During the exogen part of your hair cycle, which is part of the telogen part of your hair cycle. That's the transportation part of the hair cycle. So that your hair is supposed to do that. It grows, it reaches its maximum length, and then it falls out, and another one underneath starts to grow through. I have a video on that too, actually. I showed the hair cycle in one of my videos, and I did a nice little animation type thing. Did I do an animation? It was a graphic. I made a graphic. Okay, so there's one of those floating around on my channel somewhere. So that's one thing that can cause your hair to shed. Our hairs shed, we shed up to about 100 strands of hair every day, I believe it is. Any more than that and you're losing too much hair. However, if you're like me and you set it and forget it, you're going to lose most of those strands at the weekend when you do your wash day. So it'll seem like it's a lot, but it's just really all the strands you didn't lose during the week because your hair was in a protective style. So just watch for that kind of thing. If you notice that you're putting your hand through your hair and clumps of hair are coming out, that is excessive shedding. If you're noticing that every time you touch your hair, hair is coming off, or you're starting to notice that it's visibly thinner than you knew it to be, something has happened and we need to figure out what's causing it. So how, I've told you, I mentioned it earlier, how you can tell that it's shedding rather than breakage. That's because you'll see what we call the follicular bulb at the end of it. So follicular comes from the word follicle. It came from your scalp. So it's from where it's come off with what was left of the wrapped bit, the sheath that it was in when it was part of your follicle. So it's come off with that. If it's at the right stage, it should be nice and short and it should look like, now this is what I need to remember. It should look nice and small because it should have shrunken if it's normal shedding. It should have shrunken at that point because that's what happens during your hair cycle, your normal hair cycle. If it's falling out at a point in time when it shouldn't fall out, you might have a hockey stick appearance. So you'll see a little curve at the end and a white kind of, and I say curve because us with natural/curly hair have our hair follicles at an angle. So it'll look like this and you'll see the whole like white bit kind of like, how do I explain this without drawing? I like to draw these things because it makes it much easier to understand. If I could just find it to write with. I'm a nuisance today. All over the place today. Okay. We're going to do this. Definitely going to do this. All right, so hair strand, a little bit on the end. Okay, if we were to zoom all the way in, this is what we'd see. Not exactly. I mean, I've done a hair strand that doesn't look very nice. So this bit here, there we go. That bit there, that's the sticky out bit that will be white. That shouldn't have come out. That shows you that it came out at a stage it shouldn't have come out. So that means that something's happening that shouldn't be happening. That can be any number of conditions, which I will do a whole video on conditions that can cause you to excessively shed. But today what we are talking about is not shedding because that causes hair thinning and not hair stunted growth per se. It depends, but we'll go on to that in a different video. What it is that Such things as pregnancy, taking certain medications, and I'll give you a list of those in a second, going on a diet, an elimination diet or a crash diet, being ill, and of course, deficiencies in certain vitamins can lead to excessive hair shedding. And how to stop it? Well, with things like pregnancy and being ill, as if it was a one-off illness rather than it was a long-term illness, like a sudden shock, maybe you had surgery and then suddenly your hair fell out like 3 months later. That kind of thing, your hair will come back once you recover. So meds, they will stop when the hair shedding will stop when you stop taking the meds. If you stop taking the meds, there are other ways to get around that if you are not able to stop taking those medications. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Vitamin deficiencies, once your vitamin levels come back up again and your body starts to recover and it feels healthy again, you should be fine. Your hair will start to grow back again. And vitamin overdose, like vitamin A, retinoids. I mentioned it in one of my videos previously, that if you have too much vitamin A, it can actually cause hair loss. So vitamin A is not one of those ones you want to take if you don't have a deficiency. It's not, because we have it in so many of our foods. We would be overdosing ourselves if we took it as a supplement as well. Things that you might want to take would be vitamin D, because we with this darker skin need the vitamin D because we don't get enough of it from the sunshine, and there isn't enough sunshine around here to give us that vitamin D that we need. And maybe iron if your iron levels are low or if you're anemic. Now that's about that. Now let's move on to stunted growth for real. So, stunted growth. What actually causes stunted growth? Stunted growth is when your hair growth rate is slower than it should be. That's what stunted growth is. It's the same thing as when you talk about stunted growth in a human. They're not growing as fast as you would expect them to because something somewhere isn't quite right. So, what can cause stunted growth in your hair? I got my notes. I write all the things I'm thinking about because otherwise I will forget all the things I want to share with you. So, the 10 most common causes of stunted growth. And I'm going to talk about intrinsic factors and extrinsic factors, like things that you are doing that cause the appearance of stunted growth, and things that you do that are, that are happening that are actually stunted growth. It's coming from within. Okay, so a dirty hair and scalp, that's something that you're doing. If you're not allowing your, it's so funny because when people say dirty hair is a myth, dirty hair grows faster, it's the complete opposite. If I could show you, I really wish I had set that up before we came on live this evening. If I could show you what your scalp looks like when you don't wash it, you will understand what I mean. So the scalp gets irritated, inflamed, and that moves me on to point number 2. An inflamed or irritated scalp will not grow hair very well. It just won't. Your body's too busy fighting battles in that area. So inflammation is something that happens when your immune system's like, oh my gosh, we got to do something. And they go in there and like all the immune cells go in there and they cause absolute havoc because the immune system is quite zealous in trying to protect you. Sometimes it can harm your body when it's trying to protect you. So we need to be careful about what we do to irritate our body that causes these inflammation reactions. Not washing your scalp, not washing your hair often enough can cause irritation. And I mentioned in my last video. And yes, do not hang me out to dry because I'm telling you the truth. You can Google it if you want. Greasing your scalp is a good way to irritate your scalp. It's a good way to cause dandruff. Go watch the dandruff video. It's a good way to cause dandruff, which will then irritate your scalp. I think I showed some pretty nasty pictures in that one that will just demonstrate to you what happens when you grease your scalp. You're just encouraging the growth of microbes that you don't want to be growing on your scalp. You know what I mean? Okay. So a dirty scalp, I've said, dirty hair, dirty scalp, you need to wash them frequently. I would advise once a week. If you can, twice a weekish, just as long as you're using a mild shampoo as opposed to harsh shampoos. That will move me on to point number 3, wrong products. If you're using products that are too harsh for your skin or your scalp, don't go. A lot of us like to, excuse me, I'm Nigerian. And there's something about us Nigerians that we think that if we haven't experienced some kind of pain the thing's not clean. So if you haven't scrubbed your body with violence, you're not clean. And if you haven't scrubbed your scalp with the nails, God, don't do that. It's not clean. And if your face doesn't, like, if it's not tingling, you've not washed your face well. Beauty does not have to be pain. It really doesn't. Just take my word on that. Okay. So if you're using a harsh shampoo that is causing your scalp to feel very, very squeaky clean, you're probably using something too harsh. So you need to change up your choice of products so that you're not causing irritation. Because what happens to your skin and your scalp when you use harsh products is that they become irritated, then inflamed, which then leads to stunted growth. You can see how all of this is connected, right? Anything that's going to cause your body to be irritated or your skin to be irritated is going to lead to stunted growth, especially if it's a long-term thing. If it's a short-term thing, you've irritated your scalp, it's calmed down, you might not experience any negative effects from that. But if your follicles are on fire because your immune cells are attacking them because they're thinking something's going on there, then your follicles can't grow good hair when your immune cells are attacking them, which is actually a medical condition that I will come to in a minute. So, lack of sleep, a lack of a good diet, and a lack of exercise. Let's get into this a little bit properly, like a bit better. Oh, I had all of these on here the whole time. So I said dirty hair. I said an irritated scalp. I said a lack of sleep. Sleep is the time wherein your body is able to regenerate everything in itself. If you don't get enough of it, I'm preaching to the choir here because not by choice, I don't get very much sleep, okay? Because I have a little one, he's just about to turn 9 months. I have another little one, she's 2 years old, and they wake up in the middle of the night, okay? They have their naps during the day that I try to join them for, but I've got stuff to do, so I can't always do that. So I understand that we can't always control the lack of sleep thing, but we have to make an effort to try and make sure that we have a solid block of sleep during the night that we can sort of depend on. If you have little ones like me, that will change with time. So they'll get older, they'll start sleeping through the night like my older son does. The day he started sleeping through the night, I was happy. So happy. But we can't always control that, but that will change with time. So you can kind of wait that out. But let's make sure that we cover all the other factors before we get to things like lack of sleep. If it's just make sure it's not you causing your lack of sleep. That's all I'm trying to say. So let's talk about stress. And I'm a holistic hair coach, so I'm talking about stress because if your mind isn't settled, your body isn't. I don't know how to explain this well enough, but your mental health affects how your brain chemistry works, which then controls or affects how your brain actually moderates the whole body. Your brain is in charge of your whole body in terms of releasing the right hormones at the right time. Those hormones then do things in your body and then send a message back to the brain. And the brain's like, okay, you need to calm down on that level. So I'm going to send a message to tell you to stop producing that hormone. All those things, your hormone balance, your digestive system, everything can be affected if you are under stress for a long period of time. A lot of us a lot of us experience a lot of stress. This year, particularly 2020, has been a particularly difficult year for many people. So I understand that stress is another one of those things that we can't always control. However, we can manage stress. We can't always get rid of the source of our stress, but we can manage our stress. And doing things, taking your self-care seriously. And when I say self-care, I don't mean just lovely candles and facials and not all of that. People make it sound like it's a really flowery thing. Self-care is so important to your health. It's like drinking your water. It's like taking your medicine when you're ill. You need to take care of yourself from your mind to the rest of your body. And that is taking time to actually remove yourself from situations that are stressful. Breathe for a while, which is allowing your body to return back to baseline so that you can then deal better. If you're still in a stressful situation and constantly trying to deal with it, you are becoming less functional while becoming more stressed. So you're not moving forward at all. You're just continuing to stress yourself out, which then, like I said, if this is a chronic situation where it's long term, you're always going to be in this situation and you can't manage it, your body will step into a part of itself or into a phase where It's constantly producing stress hormones and trying to survive, which means your hair is not a priority. So anything you can do to make sure that your body feels at baseline, or your mind feels at baseline, that would be really helpful. I've spent a lot of time on that, but that's because my other thing, other than hair, is mental health. So we'll talk about that in a different video. I'll spend a whole video on how you can care for yourself. How even shampooing your scalp is actually a very good way to self-care. Okay, so using the wrong products, I've mentioned that earlier. I just don't know why I have it in the wrong order here, but I mentioned using the wrong products. If your products are too harsh, switch them out. And I am going to do a video on how to understand which products have what you need inside them without, obviously going to school to study chemistry. So I will help with that in a different video. I have so much that I have for you guys, you don't understand. So much that I've been wanting to share with you for a long time. And now that I've been doing live videos, it's so much easier to do. Crash dieting. I glazed over that. Crash dieting, if you do elimination diets or suddenly change your diet, your body has to suddenly cope with that and suddenly figure out how to manage itself. And when it's doing that, it pushes certain things to the back burner while it's trying to figure out how to survive. Because again, you force the body to do the survival mode thing, and it's like, oh, wait, everything stop. We're under attack. Let's try and figure out how to survive this. So crash dieting, I would say, if you want to eliminate something from your diet, wean yourself off, unless you're allergic or you're intolerant to it, because intolerances can lead to inflammation in your gut, which means inflammation elsewhere. That's a long discussion for another day. And you may or may not want to listen to that one because it's going to be, yeah. I mean, I think I will do that video because a lot of people don't realize, and they carry on doing things that irritate their body when they don't realize that inflammation can be a big problem to the body. It can be a big, scary problem to the body, but we'll talk about that some other time. Wean yourself off certain things. If you're trying to go meatless, make yourself a program where within 90 days you go meatless. That seems like I'm not a dietitian, by the way, so don't take my advice on this. I'm just trying to say, program it so that it's slowly weaning you off it. Talk to your nutritionist, talk to your dietitian, talk to your GP, talk to someone who knows about this stuff. I'm just suggesting taking it easy. Definitely taking it easy rather than just, okay, I'm no longer eating meat. I'm no longer eating fish. I'm just going to eat everything that is plant-based. And there's nothing wrong with plant-based. It's just that your body needs time to figure out what's going on. Okay, so poor circulation. This can be translated into basically how we can fix that is increasing our exercise. And I don't mean go for a 5-mile jog every single day. If you have gone from a very sedentary lifestyle, which a lot of us have this year, having been locked indoors for lockdown all year, to a situation where it's you can't now train for a 5K. All of a sudden I do the 5K tomorrow. No, that's not a good idea. Again, like how you wean yourself off certain foods, I would suggest weaning yourself on, I don't know, man, trying to increase your activity levels gradually. So start with, and it's also good for you in that you're not setting your expectations too high. And when you don't set your expectations too high, you don't get disappointed and you don't feel like, oh my gosh, this is too big a thing for me to do. 10 minutes every day. 10 minutes, walk to the post office, come back. But try to weave it into, I've got errands to do anyway. You know what I mean? Walk the dog, take the kids out for a stroll and pushchair. Just do a little bit of something. Go further and further each day. Further and further. I would actually say maybe for a week, and this is something I did during the lockdown, I would do a week of walking to a certain space. The next week, I would walk even further. The next week, I'd walk even further. And now that my son goes to school just down the hill, I walk to the school. Sometimes, I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I don't like to walk. This weather is not friendly for walking, okay? But yeah, I like to walk to the school or walk back to pick him up. And he loves it because he can scoot. And you just weave it into your lifestyle because your lifestyle is really busy. Poor circulation can be caused by medical conditions, which I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but people who have poor circulation issues know about this. So they're already being treated for that kind of thing. Signs of poor circulation would be like cold extremities, no feeling in your extremities, or like numbness in your extremities. And if you haven't seen a GP about this already, please do see your GP about this. And yeah, get it seen to, because circulation is a big, big deal. But also circulation to your scalp when you exercise I just do, oh, another thing I do is I've been doing a few like 10-minute things, 10-minute Pilates or Pilates, that's how you pronounce it apparently. 10-minute Pilates on YouTube in the morning. So it's me and my daughter do it, and it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. We bond, we do Pilates, and that 10 minutes is something. It's fire, okay? Or a 10-minute warm-up exercise. You can do a little bit more each day. You know what I mean? That will increase your circulation, which means all that oxygenated blood, that good oxygen, water, nutrients from your body going to your scalp as often as they need to help your hair grow. If you have poor circulation, your hair is going to suffer. So try your best to increase that. There are some of us, like I said, that may not necessarily be able to battle that on our own. So please go see a GP if you think you're struggling with something like that. Okay. Long-term illness. And I'm talking about serious illnesses like autoimmune diseases. Autoimmune diseases are where your immune system is attacking you, autoimmune, attacking yourself. And that can happen in the scalp as well. There are specific trichological conditions. I'm sorry, I was just looking at my trichology textbook. Trichological conditions that whereby you have your immune cells attacking your follicles, and that can cause scarring alopecias. We're going to do a video. I'm going to do a video about that too. Specific hair loss conditions and how we can deal with them. And why you need a trichologist or you need to see your dermatologist. That's why, because a lot of us, especially in the Black community, don't like to see anybody medical until things get really bad. And by then, something that could have been treated or slowed down or reversed may have gone too far. So I'm really happy that some of my clients have been finding me, and they'd never heard of trichology or any of this stuff. They didn't even realize that there were things such as hair coaches before they encountered me, and they just did by chance. And I've been able to do a little bit of something to help, and that makes a big difference. It makes a big difference because people don't realize that hair matters to them as much as it does until it's gone. Hair Today, Gone Tomorrow. That's the name of a book, I think. And I thought it was a terrible name. But it's true. You take your hair for granted. It takes a lot of a beating from you all your life until suddenly you're like, actually, I've got this little shiny patch on my head and I'm not sure what's going on here. Even if you've had that kind of condition for 4 years or 5 years, or maybe even 10 or 20 years, I've seen these things reversed. Not in my specific hands. I'm talking about the 20-year one. I saw somebody else reverse that and I was like, that's what happens when you realize what is actually going on your scalp. So yeah. Long-term illnesses, things like cancer, things like autoimmune diseases, things like thyroid issues. Do I have a list of this somewhere? I'm just reading this off the top of my head, to be honest. There are lots of different medical illnesses that can cause your body's focusing on something more important. That's surviving this big issue. So it's not going to be focusing on your hair. It's just not. It's not going to do that. But there are ways around that too. For some people, what have I done? Okay, I thought I'd deleted what? Cancelled the live. Okay. I have talked about a lot of stuff. Okay. Long-term illnesses, long-term medications for medical conditions. So things like chemotherapy, and I do have a list here. Chemotherapy, retinoids for acne in my acne medications, antibiotics and antifungals. Antifungals they're pretty good at making hair loss happen. Antidepressants, immunosuppressants. So immunosuppressants, things that suppress your immune system so it stops attacking you. Birth control pills, I would definitely know about that. I have had a rough time with birth control pills. Different types of hormonal medications. Anti-clotting drugs, which would be given to people who are at risk of coagulation. So basically forming blood clots in areas where they shouldn't be, inside your blood vessels, because that can be risk of a stroke or anything else. So if you're on those types of medications, they can affect your hair as well. They can cause hair loss. Cholesterol lowering drugs, I mentioned chemotherapy, anticonvulsants like epilepsy meds, weight loss drugs. I'm not going to say much more about that because they're blocking. Some of them work by blocking your ability to absorb certain things. It's as simple as that. Steroids, thyroid meds, I think I mentioned that already. Parkinson meds, mood stabilizers, I think I said antidepressants already. Hormone replacement therapy treatments, that's for menopause, high BP meds and diuretics and NSAIDs. So long-term use of ibuprofen, paracetamol, those types of things, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, those types of things can also cause hair loss. Okay, I have gone whistle stop through all of that to try and show you that if you don't have any of those things going on, those medical conditions and medical issues going on, and you're not taking long-term meds at all, it's not likely that your problem with your hair growth is anything to do with, stunted growth. It might just be a length retention issue. And now, I have lots of videos on how to retain length. I'm going to be doing more because, that's a thing. But I'm also going to be doing more videos on how to manage your hair if you are one of the people who has these long-term conditions and would like to do the best things you can with your hair. If anything I've said here has struck a chord, please feel free to contact me. Please feel free. In fact, I would press upon you to see your GP. If anything I've said today has struck a chord with you, like, I might have circulation issues, please go see your GP. My hair has suddenly just fallen out, go see your GP. Or you can see a trichologist about the hair loss issue, because sometimes hair loss can be a sign of a disease that has not been diagnosed. If you go to a trichologist first saying, I've just lost a bunch of hair, they can point you in the direction of a dermatologist or your GP telling you, I think there's more to this than just the hair. Okay, so that said, thank you for attending my TED Talk. I'm really happy to have you here as usual. And if you have any questions, drop them down below. Again, I'm going to say, subscribe, share with a friend, join the Lazy Naturals hair group. I'm still not used to this, right there. There we go, going across the screen at the bottom. Join the Lazy Naturals hair group because that's where I'll put all the good stuff several times a week. And of course, you have free access to me to be able to ask me any questions you want. Please do so. And I will see you in our next live, which is on Wednesday. Our next hair live is on Wednesday. We have an enlightenmental video on Monday, as usual. And yeah, take care of yourself and may your skin glow and your hair grow. Take care now.